Wow.
Hey, I came prepared. I did my homework today.
Welcome back to Visited by Voices, and welcome to Beta Ethiopia. We're joined on Obscurity Report this week, this day. I don't know, how often do we do these things? Like 4 times a year? I don't know. Yeah, whatever. More often than most people would want. Joined today, of course, by Sam.
Hello, sir. My Kung Fu masters. Spaghetti. Ravioli. Balthazar.
Also joined by Dan from Flesh Wound Features.
I'm ready to discuss our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, on this show, sir.
And is perchance to get us to the aforementioned highway. And, of course, from New York City, a crime-ridden cesspool, but still the home of all culture and civility, Stone Gassman.
Yes, good evening, Sam and Dan and whatever. I'm looking forward to talking about this tonight.
It's going to be hard to just not laugh because of this movie.
Yeah. Usually when I send out an announcement for you guys, it's like, oh, I need you to watch this Indian movie, or I need you to watch this obscure thing from the early 70s that, is only available on, some really backwards stream illegally. But this film is actually the most available, I think, of everything I've ever asked you guys to review. And there's something beautiful in that, considering what this movie is and what it's not. So I think we have to introduce this movie as best we can. What I'm going to ask is each of you to take an act of the film, and I don't think you can really spoil this movie, but just kind of broadly tell the audience what happens in each act. Sam, you got Act 1.
Oh, shit. Okay. So we've got these 2 CIA agents, Palmer Eldritch and D.T. Gagano. D.T. Gagano is our hero of this story. And so they're stuck doing these missions through this thing, which is like the Matrix, but it's called Psychobook.
Psychobook.
Yeah. And oh shit, this is a lot harder than I was expecting. And it's great because all their adventures and all of their missions are in stop motion. But then, whatever. But apparently there's a virus that's playing both sides.
What is the virus called?
Oh fuck! I don't know what the virus is called. I know
Stalin.
It's Stalin.
No.
I know. It has the face of Stalin.
That's right. Stone got it. It's called the Soviet Union.
Oh, Soviet. Yes. All right. My bad.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So they're on this mission to figure out what's going on with this virus and this substance. And one of their other colleagues has already died inside of Psychobook, so it's kind of like you die in the game, you die for real, except not really, because DT Gagano, that happens later. He gets stuck in it, kind of. And he and his wife are going to open this kickboxing academy, and he also really loves pizza, so it's kind of going to be like a joint pizzeria / kickboxing academy. And oh god, the first act, I think that might kind of be it, because there's a lot of building up.
Dan, before you take the second act, I'd like you to, using 3 words, describe Agent Gargano's wife.
Vicky Steamboat.
Is she a traditional type of Hollywood actress? is anyone in this movie a traditional actor? Is that not the most glorious thing ever? Yeah. So go ahead, Dan. What happens in Act 2?
Talk about the
Wow.
Thickboxing Academy.
Yes. So we have. I don't even know if I'm going to hit what happens in what act, but we have our deformed dwarf agent who hurts his back while trying to pleasure his kickboxer extraordinaire wife in the shower. And then what happens? We get some sort of Benny Hill like kung fu scenes with people in paper masks inside of the Matrix. And at some point Jesus shows up, but I might be getting into the third act there,
That's a
so
little later.
I'll leave that for Stone. It's kind of like Astron 6 doing a parody of a Filipino action film with a lot of bizarre sex scenes, and Jesus pops up maybe to show them the way to the highway. Oh, I forgot the best part of the film, guys. We get Batman with a foot fetish, who is also a character in the film, an old man named Mr. Sophistication, Joseph Stalin, and they're doing
both Bushes.
Yes, we get George Bush, and it's basically like I don't know, like Lawnmower Man on acid, and it's beautiful. I don't know what the hell this movie's about.
Yes,
and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't look like anything I've ever seen.
I was like gonna write something down to read as a description in case I was asked, and I was like, fuck, screw it. Like this, it does. What the hell? All I know is this is just a movie that you experience, and the experience was pretty awesome. I also love that Joseph Stalin had a Scottish accent. I thought that was,
and that during his fight scenes he uses a hammer and sickle.
Yes.
That was great.
Unbelievable.
It took the bad taste of the last Matrix movie out of my mouth.
Nothing can take that bad taste away. Stone. So third act.
Now my mind's a blink. I don't remember.
Jesus.
I do remember that they actually dug out an old 60s commercial featuring Batman and Batgirl and Robin from the series. This I mean, Adam West used to call that show Theater of the Absurd, and that's exactly what the hell this is. It's Theater of the Absurd. Am I wrong? But the cutout picture faces, are those Robert Redford in The Candidate and Richard Pryor in Car Wash?
It's definitely Richard Pryor. Not sure about Redford.
There was some Jess Franco, possibly like some of his early spy films too, that I picked up on in here.
Oh, and there was definitely Mario Bava, Danger Diabolique.
There's a lot going on.
I think you think there's a lot going on in this film.
And on top of all that, the late 80s, early 90s tech and the video game images and everything. It's just it was set in the future, but it felt like it was in the 80s or 90s for some weird reason. Did you get that vibe too?
There's such a good reason for that. Like, that's the thing about this movie. We're describing it for the absurdist, gonzo film it is. But there's so much thought put into everything that seems random. It's really scary. There's time is a problem in the movie, intentionally. Mm-hmm. One of the first things we see is Agent Gargano wake up, eat a slice of pizza, and go to his balcony, and he looks out at this kind of cheap-ass Blade Runner skyscraper. And he sees these screens with advertisements on them. And there's what is clearly a late 60s Chevrolet being said it's the car of 2043. Mm. So right from the beginning, there's this sense that it's a manufactured world, like all the levels are wrong. All time is kind of collapsed into this like I don't want to say idealized because it's kind of dystopian in its own way, but into this world. Like there's a sense that every layer is manufactured and either intentionally or unintentionally just wrong. Like the details about time are just wrong in this movie. So yeah, Stone, I completely agree. And the very last scene of the film, there's a big tell that has to do with dates about how this film really resolves. Because it seems like it ends open-ended. It doesn't, if you pay attention to one detail. And I think that's so cool for something that would be easily dismissed as like a bizarre cartoon, but it's not. It's like actually really, really well constructed. And yeah, I'll take this over any of the Matrix sequels and probably the original any day.
Definitely.
If I had to pitch it to people, like Astron 6, like, but not exactly. I actually like this more, but like stuff they did like Manborg and some films like that in terms of the aesthetic at the very least. I know that the director Miguel Lanzo said this film was basically just a collection of random ideas, but he knew the ending simply because he got lost in the desert with his ex-girlfriend on a drive, and they came across a statue of Jesus literally pointing towards the highway. So he had that as the ending, and then the rest was just a beautiful imagination. Believe it or not, some big special effects artists worked on this film on the weekend from the Harry Potter films.
Well, they had to do something worthwhile with their time while making that shit.
They did, and I guarantee you they're more proud of this. But yeah, they helped out on the weekends, and it was shot, I guess, partially in Ethiopia and partially in Spain. Man, I loved it. Batman. They don't fear lawsuits, I guess, in
No.
Ethiopia.
Well, that commercial is probably public domain, so they probably would have been able to get away with that. But yeah,
but they don't want the image of Batman sucking on toes. It's like Quentin Tarantino's Batman.
Exactly.
This is so much better than anything Quentin Tarantino is going to come up with these days.
Well, wait a minute. Who says Batman isn't into shrimping? I mean, you got to remember that there's a famous Hollywood story that Frank Gorshin is the Riddler and Adam West as Batman went to an orgy, and they got booted out because they wouldn't get out of character.
Wow.
That seems like a weird reason to kick somebody out of an orgy, though.
Yeah, that doesn't
imagine
very
Frank Gorshin as the Riddler laughing. Yeah,
I just got an image of a disgusted Vincent Price's egghead just watching it all happen in the corner.
Was Will Smith there? Oh no, it was before his time. Never mind.
No.
What was up with the fly costumes with the laser beams coming out?
Wait.
System.
So what is Gargano's wife call him?
Little Fly. That's what I was thinking. I was like, that must connect somewhere.
Yep. So, it's funny because this film it's difficult to call an obscurity because it's so available, but yet I was unaware of this thing.
And it's only a couple years old.
Yeah, it's from 2019. It seems like this is the kind of thing people would have been screaming at me for years, but it was only recently that it came onto my radar. And I'm wondering why this doesn't have a huge cult following right now.
Honestly, I mean, we just got Everything Everywhere All at Once. So, I mean, people are really gravitating towards that. Maybe there's an audience out there for shit like Jesus Shows You the Way to the Highway.
That is a fantastic film, but it's not nearly as bizarre as this.
No, I wouldn't imagine it is, but I mean, it's got that kind of flavor. So if people want something a little bit more extreme, if people want something a little more out there you go.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean there is like a butt plug fight scene in it, so it is weird, but it's just this is like a different level of weird. But man, I love this. I don't see why this wouldn't have a massive cult following at some point. I think the answer is just more people need to discover it. I don't know if Jesus Shows You the Way to the Highway is a title that necessarily tells you a whole lot, so maybe people are overlooking it for that reason.
I thought it was like, what is this? Beware my brethren?
Oh yeah, no.
That's a different kind of wonderful.
No. Like I think it's one of those films like somebody's looking at it as like, is this a horror film? Is this a sci-fi film?
Yes.
Well, the answer to everything is yes.
The script was written in wingdings.
Yes, it is literally everything, everywhere, all at once.
It really is kind of like what happens if like early career Oliver Stone does a lot of drugs with the Matrix kids, and I don't know. I'm thinking like the guys who used to make those MTV shorts that would be just the commercial plugs, where it's like an astronaut would like be floating in space, and then like he'd turn into a unicorn.
Yeah.
That's kind of what's going on here.
You could double it up with Seizure. I could see that.
Seizure is one of those films that you got to wonder if Oliver Stone would have every print burned if he could.
I love it hearing stories about him just hanging out on the set of Blood-Sucking Freaks. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall. But yeah, I mean, I don't know who to recommend this to. I will say it's lively. There's no way you're going to get bored watching this movie. I actually had my nieces and nephew over, and by the time we got to the shower scene, I was like, okay, I'll be watching this downstairs where they can't see. But man, I've watched it twice actually, because I wanted to refresh myself again, and man, I wasn't multitasking. I enjoyed it just as much the second time. I think it's, in terms of cult films out over the last decade, this is near the top as far as being a true cult film. That if you like weird movies, inventive, creative, there is nothing that I can really, I mean, I can compare it to a lot of things, but it's not one thing. You should absolutely check out Jesus Shows You the Way to the Highway.
It has midnight movie potential. Like, it's so quotable.
Yeah.
All over
I could
it.
see a Rocky Horror type thing evolving from this.
I so want to see cosplay of any of these characters.
Right? Oh my god.
I don't know who I would cosplay.
I mean, you look the most like this Sophistication.
Yeah.
You need some glasses.
Yeah, I could be like the younger version of
that may be my favorite scene in this film. By the way, when the president of Beta Ethiopia, who is of course the Batman character, is sitting down with and with his, I guess, girlfriends, and they're intentionally just throwing shade at Mr. Sophistication the whole time, and he's being like a little worm. It's such a bizarre, wonderful scene because like it so derails the movie in such a beautiful way. Yeah. But it's so wonderfully mean. Like you end up being really sympathetic for Mr. Sophistication, who's not a sympathetic character.
How bad do you want to? I could watch hours of footage of just these actors filming this and being directed. Like I don't know what the hell you even like tell them like before you yell action. Like trying to make sense. So what is it about these fly things again? What am I doing here? That would just be awesome.
It's crazy too, because this movie kind of bridges, it's so bizarre to say this, but it bridges the Matrix with 2001 in a way, because 2001 of course is about, the monolith is basically communication. It's a movie screen on its side. That's what the monolith is. And that's why the end of the film is pretty blatant about it if you just watch it for what it is and get out of your own head, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this kind of is that too, because what happens to Gargano? He gets lost in this simulation. He ends up inside a miniature television trying to escape. And then there's, of course, a character suggests that perhaps all of that is fake and all of that is a projection. It's all a trip, as it were. No, we won't be discussing The Trip, though, Dan, because that's on a different show. But I like you. I've seen this now 3 times, actually, which is probably not healthy. But I just shared it this weekend with friends, and They had some thoughts, definitely. I don't want to cut to the end, the end of the discussion, but I think we should just get out of the way, like the fact that we all love this movie. I mean, on a schoolhouse grade or however you grade movies, I give this a straight A, not an A plus, but a straight A. It is really strong for what it wants to do. Sam, what do you say?
Oh, it's a 7-star match, 100%.
Well, I'd give it the A plus. In terms of cult movies, I'm very serious. Like, this could be something, if enough people saw it, that they will embrace, and you'd get midnight screenings. I don't know if they throw popcorn. I don't know what they would throw with this movie. Pizza, something. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. It is that strong as a cult movie, and there is more going on than you might think. So don't sit, as always. Don't multitask. Just disappear into it. It's lively. It's batshit, and it's wonderful.
Stone, what would you give it?
Let me say that, okay, I'm sure you guys know that my second favorite movie of all time is Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, directed by Russ Meyer and written by Roger Ebert. And that's like you can't classify that movie in any, it spans so many genres, and it's a total satire. In many ways, this movie, Jesus Shows You the Way to the Highway, is kind of like that, in that it's, you can't contain it in one box. It's like a sprawling sea creature where it touches on a billion different things. Some pop culture, some things not, some things much more obscure, other things wild and ordinary, things that you've never seen in a movie before. Yeah, it's a true original. I want to get that I want to get that Arrow Blu-ray now. Yeah, I do want to get it. Oh, and by the way, Lauren, earlier you asked on how you would describe that woman. Well, by the way, I thought she was my favorite performance in the entire movie. And I read one review of the movie that gave her the appropriate description of Zaftig. Zoftig, yes, my bad.
Yeah.
I had to look up what that word was. I was like, oh yeah, but I still loved her.
Oh,
Dedication for sure. I mean, my God,
yeah.
I think that she's the heart of the movie in many ways, because she's definitely the point of view character.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and it feels like she's. I mean, I'm not going to say nobody else is acting, but I felt the most commitment to that role from her. And this is even just watching it dubbed. I would love to see it in its original language. I don't think, is that available on that Blu-ray, Lauren?
So no, it apparently is shot in many different languages.
Oh,
so it's a little bit difficult to say what the preferable version to watch would be.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
That might be some of that Jess Franco stuff there, Dan, right there.
I'm sure there's plenty that I'm missing. I think one of my favorite lines was "Stop sodomizing me, Gargano."
Get back to the mission. And that's not. And the funny thing is, that's like one of the more normal transitions in the film.
Pretty much. Yeah. I would say get a big group of friends together if you can, and don't tell them a damn thing. Just say, "Hey, I want everybody to watch this."
Let me think. Are you already filming? I have nothing chambered. 2-sentence review. Fucked up. A lot of love of pizza. That's all I got.
And Jesus shows us the way to the highway. There's quite a bit to say about that. Reality within reality, outside of reality, just totally freaking bonkers. It takes a little while to catch on to what's going on, and then even when you think you catch on to what's going on, you really don't. Maybe at towards the end, middle, beginning. It's definitely something to probably revisit to try to get a better grasp on it. I would definitely revisit it again just to make sure I totally understand or think I understand what's going on. But yeah, I'm looking forward to booking my plane trip to Beta, Ethiopia.
Great. Shows are the way of the highway.
Start again.
Jesus shows the way of the highway. It's a creative, yet very sympathetic film. You really get a feel for what Gargano is going through. The guy just wants to make pizzas, and he's stuck in this pseudo reality. And it's like, where is he really? Is he in his mind? What's going on? I enjoyed it for what it was. 4 stars.
Show me the way to the highway. I wish I could make this movie, but I think I'm a little too sane. That's all I gotta say. This movie's fucking rocks.
Better than the Matrix movies, and having an interesting approach to that, and just worlds within worlds. Odd as can be. I don't know if I'd watch that again, but interesting, and you have to see it for yourself.
All I could say is it's a top to bottom assault on the senses. If you think you've seen it all, you haven't. You need to watch this movie.
Not going to say a word about it.
So
just
my movie night lineup was Jesus Shows You the Way of the Highway, American Rickshaw, Titan.
Oh my God, Lauren!
Wow.
How did they all were they all able to walk after that? That would take it out of me.
They were okay. They were okay.
It's weird when American Rickshaw is like your most normal movie.
Right?
Yeah.
Jesus Shows You the Way to the Highway needs to be on Red Letter Media. I need to know what they think of this.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but you know what? Sam, little side, just me and Sam here. They really disappointed me with this week because they hated Moonfall.
Oh, I didn't see that. I am heartbroken now. I'm like, God.
Moonfall is like the commercial Jesus Shows You the Way of the Highway. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
You can't get it all right. I still love those guys, but yeah, they got that one really wrong.
I've got the 4K coming later this month, so I'm excited. I missed it in theaters.
Oh, it's a trip.
It's everything.
Oh, I want to know what the deleted scenes are like, if there are any.
That's a good question. I mean, it's only an 82-minute movie.
Jesus Shows You the Way of the Highway, or no, Moonfall's longer than that. Which one are we talking about?
Jesus.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna start thinking about Moonfall now.
Yeah.
We'll add that. Make it a all-nighter 4-movie marathon.
So the other thing when I was first watching this movie, the one thing that really stuck out to me was that there were so many moments where I didn't know exactly how they were doing what they were doing, and yet everything looked cheap, intentionally.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, Sam, stop motion. I'm not sure what we're watching is actually stop motion. I don't know if it's maybe recorded backwards and then frames are dropped. It's very hard to figure out exactly how they did it. Now, some of the long shots, maybe those are action figures being manipulated. It's very difficult to say. And that's kind of an achievement in itself, right? Even though it has a cheap aesthetic, it's very innovative in its storytelling.
Yeah, and it's, of course, that just reminds me of watching old Robot Chicken episodes, if indeed they are using stop motion. But I thought that was cool because the stop motion is really for basically Psycho Book, and then there's quote unquote the real world when they come out of Psycho Book. But then there's another layer, which is Massachusetts, basically. We'll just say that. So it's it basically did what I was asking the Matrix to do in Matrix Resurrections, which was establish that what we think is the real world in the Matrix when they come out of the pods, that's actually just another layer of the Matrix. So this fucking movie did it better.
Yep, and in that final scene, which is supposed to take place in 2009, on the truck on the pizza truck, it reads since 2014. So We're still not in any kind of real world.
Yeah, I missed that.
Yeah.
So
It's easy to miss a lot in this movie. The second time I watched it, I noticed things I didn't the first time, which, again, how many movies, to be honest, really warrant more than one watch and to understand it. I love that.
Do you find it odd that we've gotten almost a half hour into talking about this movie and no one has mentioned the wingsuited trans super agent stripper?
Captain Lagucci! Oh my gosh.
Oh
Captain
yeah.
Lagucci was amazing.
There needs to be action figures of everybody from this movie.
Everyone.
That would
I need
be
a
awesome.
I don't know if I need a sequel, but I need more of this movie in general. In some aspect. I'll
I
take
have to
merch
say-
time.
I have to say another achievement that this movie has, at least for me personally, is I've never been a fan of virtual reality stuff or any. Maybe I don't know if it's just due to the fact when I saw Johnny Mnemonic in theaters, I laughed my ass off when Jesus got burned up, and I just said out loud in the theater, "Oh man, he's toast." But I mean, it's just most virtual reality movies have not grabbed me on any kind of entertaining or cerebral level. This is an anomaly that this one just totally overtook my brain in ways I did not expect and absolutely appreciate it. This is a rare virtual reality movie I actually liked.
So you're saying this is better than The Cell with Jennifer Lopez?
It's funny you say that because I remember seeing The Cell in theaters. Visually, it was incredible, but it's also kind of Jennifer Lopez's best movie. And that's not saying
Selena,
that much.
let's be fair. It's Selena. That's her best movie. Anything more Selena.
Yeah.
Come on, Lauren, stand up for Anaconda.
I like Anaconda, and no one thinks I would. It's a dumb fucking movie, but there's a lot of dumb fun to be had in it.
John Voight in that.
Yeah, John Voight is pretty amazing in his ridiculously over the top mustache twirling performance.
I may have said this before, but every time I go out on my boat with my oldest niece who's afraid of the water, I'm John Voight. And I just make up these backstories about cannibals on these islands we pass and everything. And she stopped going. I think I literally traumatized her. She stopped going. So.
Oh yeah, it's weird. Weird how that works out. I was thinking about the technology aspect. Stone, you were saying that this movie grabbed you, whereas other virtual reality movies didn't. And I wonder if that has to do with the fact that our technology is we innovate at such a rapid speed now.
Yes.
And so if you look at something like Lawnmower Man, or even if you look at something like The Matrix now, it feels really dated.
It does.
But this movie doesn't look like it's from any time period, because even though who knows what year it is, allegedly it's 2043 or thereabouts. But again, that's it's very unreliable as to when it is. But they're still using dial-up. But they can go into this thing called the Psycho Book, and there are weird experiments taking place. So it doesn't feel like it's from a time period.
And what is the Ark of the Covenant in this universe?
It's that giant laptop, that terminal for the Psycho Book. Jesus, I'm pretty sure that I had a similar laptop to that. Chris said he did.
It's just remarkable to me, though, that a film with this much ambition kind of like seduces you with all the silly stuff, and they're doing all this hard work in the background.
Yeah.
And you gotta think they almost don't need to do the hard work, because it could just be a silly movie. That'd be fine, right? They could be Freddy Got Fingered. That's fine. But in reality, like this movie, I think, Sam, you hit it dead on. I think that from a purely storytelling standpoint, this does the hard solipsism story way better than The Matrix does. And I'm talking about the good Matrix movie there, let alone the sequels, where it's just like, So what can we do to make this movie just required viewing for the cult fans out there? How can we make it this generation's Eraserhead or The Wall?
Reenact scenes from it.
Okay, go.
I did that at the beginning of the show.
God.
Hey, I came prepared. I did my homework today.
unlike Steak Sauce, who never does his homework.
I can get some makeup and see if I can pull off Gargalucci or whatever that character was.
Gargano? Agent
No.
Gargano?
You're a little tall to be Gargano.
No, I'm pretty sure it would
I
be
was a little bit worried about
politically incorrect.
where that was going.
No, the dancer.
Ah.
I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Gucci.
There you go.
Yes.
That would be the most watched episode of Obscurity Report if I cosplayed that. So never know, might just happen. But no, I don't think I could do Gargano.
You know what? I will trade you. You could be Mr. Sophistication. I'll be Captain Lagucci. I'm totally cool with it because you look more like Mr. Sophistication.
There you
got
go.
the hat and the beard. So, Stone, who are you going to be?
What's his name? His partner.
Oh, Palmer Eldritch.
Yeah,
Palmer. Yeah, Agent Palmer.
Yeah.
Oh shit! You know what? This is off topic, but okay, the Commandant. That motherfucker looks so much like my dad when he was younger in the army, except like picture that dude with glasses, basically like a young version of my dad. So weird.
We're getting strong Sam Raimi vibes off of him.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Random thought. Maybe the best way is if to get some midnight screenings of something like Rocky Horror and make it a double feature somehow. I think it's going to take somebody just to really embrace this well enough that they'll do these screenings. And I really do think it would catch on. I would go, I mean, over the last 20 years or so, this would rank pretty high in terms of cult films.
You know, there is a niche market out there. I mean, there is a niche fan following right now for absurd and surreal movies, horror or not.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Room 82, I mentioned it to him because I was like, man, this is right up his alley. And he was like, yeah, that's like kind of the Astron 6 and kind of like what he wants to do. So I'm like, yeah, so I mean, you know, there is a base already.
There is.
It's kind of like collecting those people together.
There is. At times, I almost felt like I was like watching an adaptation of a Carlton Mellick novel. Like it felt like really like a bizarro. Yeah, Satan Burger or Parasite Milk. I don't know. For anybody familiar with Carlton Mellick, it's always the Ass Goblins of Auschwitz. I mean, he's had some pretty wild storylines.
I've never read Philip K. Dick, but I got some Dick vibes while watching this for some reason.
You got Dick vibes.
Yeah, that wasn't intentional. Do you think so, Lauren?
Hashtag Dick vibes.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, Palmer Eldritch comes from one of Philip K. Dick's books. I think it's I can't remember the name of it. Is it Ubik? UBIK?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying it correctly.
It's been a while since I've read Philip Dick, but I used to have that hardback that had like 3 of his stories, but I'm a huge Blade Runner guy. I should have an answer for that.
Well, there's definitely an audience out there for this movie. I mean, even if it takes a few years, but I think this movie deserves a bigger cult audience than The Room.
Oh yeah,
correct. This is a good movie.
Enough of The Room. I'm tired of everything about The Room. I don't care.
Yeah, that's like I get it with The Room, but I don't need to watch The Room like every year. And I know people who do that. You get a lot more out of this than The Room, to be perfectly honest. There's just so much going on here. So much. You watch The Room once, it's amusing. I'm kind of good. Like I think this is much higher up the cult movie ladder than The Room is.
Yeah.
I think this kind of convinces you that you're going to watch something like Birdemic 6 or something, and it gives you something completely unexpected. I like all the characters in this movie. Like I like all of them. The Beta Ethiopian generals.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love them. Like they don't have a lot to do, but they're amazing. And the fact that they pray a glitch in the program, unbelievable, unreal. And did you notice the thing going on with Candy?
What was
Yeah,
up
I
with
was thinking red pill, blue pill, and then there's green, which is the substance.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely like a weird like Jolly Rancher undertone to the entire Psycho book reality.
Yeah, it's sort of like, you know, just when I thought that movie couldn't get any weirder, giant flies showed up, and then, you know, after one of them got
That's okay.
zapped, I don't remember what happened to that one.
Yeah, he gets he tries to shoot Agent Gargano, but Agent Gargano uses a mirror to reflect the laser beam back.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you
Hits the
imagine?
fly, and then candy comes out of his sleeve.
Can you imagine if these guys had like a budget? Like I would just I wonder what we would get. I hope they wouldn't sell out. I hope they wouldn't sell out.
Oh yeah.
I would only want them to have a budget if it meant like, hey, keep the movie the same. Spend all that money on getting it screened. Like
We
this
get-
movie needs to be talked about.
We get Jim Caviezel as Jesus. That's where it all goes.
That was also another thing I loved, just the fact that they made fun of exposition dumps. Like there's a couple moments in this film where there's like, stop everything. I want to tell you about my dream. And like then you go on this freaking epic journey that could be its own friggin' movie, but it's 3 minutes of just madness. And the unreliable narrator thing is even played with because there's characters that will tell you that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. It's like, well, I woke up and I thought maybe I could be Jesus, but then I thought I wasn't. And you'd be like, whoa, what just happened there? It's pretty amazing stuff. And I mean, again, this is a movie whereas you're not sure. You might just go to kind of like a ATF rate of a cult because that's where the movie goes.
Just because.
Because
Can we discuss how beautiful the music is? The music is perfect, honestly. There's so much in it that reminds me of Cowboy Bebop. In some of that, some of the jazzier parts, and then I don't remember exactly what scenes, but the score kind of disintegrates in pieces here and there, and that actually reminded me a lot of J.A. Caesar, who's a Japanese composer. He did the music for Revolutionary Girl Utena. Those soundtracks are all beautiful, and I remember listening to that stuff when I was a teenager, and listening to some of these compositions just kind of fall apart at the end. Not very many of them, but they really stuck out, and that just brought me right back. It was a beautiful touch. And it seems very appropriate given the world that we're in this movie, or worlds, or who knows what the fuck we're in.
It's like an alternate universe that because seriously, I can see a lot of young kids liking this movie. Well, it's not a kids movie, but I'm saying if you're a teenager or in college or anything, I can see them loving this movie. Yet at the same time, how many of them remember what the Soviet Union was?
That's true. Well, that might be coming back a little bit. So.
I'm just imagining a bunch of kids turning around, looking at Stone and saying, Uncle Stone, what are they doing in the pizza truck at the pizza truck?
I love this movie's obsession with pizza and candy and Batman 1966. I mean, it was just glorious.
Riverside, there's a Riverside pizza joint and kickboxing academy. It's beautiful.
It's just like life's dream. Like your ultimate dream is to open a kickboxing academy. And initially he thinks, no, I wouldn't open a pizza shop. That's just a hobby. And because of the two, which is the more reasonable goal, right? I mean, we see that he can make pizza, right? And pizza looks pretty good to me.
Maybe this movie needs like an endorsement from like Joe Dorowski or David Lynch or just somebody like that to say, hey, you should check this movie out. And maybe that's what it takes for it to start snowballing and gaining momentum. Because I agree, nobody's really talking about it, and that's a shame.
Imagine Chris Nolan threw down for this movie.
Yeah. Just anybody. I I have faith in this one. I may be wrong, but I think maybe in like 10 years, this will be like, hey, you need to give this one a look. This will be in some, obscure movie book, and maybe it'll just start to gain its audience somehow.
Will that be before or after Jesus Shows You the Way to the Highway, the musical?
Oh God, I love that.
That would be a really good idea.
If there was a sequel, what would it be? Like Buddha Shows You the Way to the Autobahn? Thought.
Daniel Tedeschi, I don't know how to say his name, but Daniel Tedeschi, who plays Gargano, he does do theater, so you could probably get him. Probably get anybody, I would imagine. I don't think anybody's too busy from this film. So,
I mean, it's so funny because society as it is right now, you go and look at your rectangle of death, of doom. You say, well, let's look into the void today. What's going on in, say, Twitter, and everything's on fire, and you kind of have to start if you are active a lot especially on Twitter, you have to embrace the absurd in order to keep your sanity. So this movie should hit just fine. Like this movie needs a renaissance, needs to be celebrated.
Yes.
Well, all film and all literature for that matter, I mean, it's all abstraction, right? I mean, you start from like an idea and you build a world. And this used to be celebrated, right? Because you have something like Star Wars when it originally came out, which yes, looked like Buck Rogers and it looked like the 40s serials, but never fully realized like that. And it's not celebrated anymore. Now everything has to look like whatever we expect something to look like. They're releasing a Doctor Strange movie that needs to look like everything else in the Marvel canon, right? And it does. I mean, you watch that trailer, you go, yeah, there's no question. They don't need to put a title screen on that. You get what it is within two frames. So everything's kind of like in its own box and it's very safe. And world building doesn't happen. We just work in existing worlds. This movie not only builds its own world, and then it like subtly deconstructs what it's built every, 5 to 10 minutes and rebuilds. Because there's so many moments in this film where you have to kind of like catch yourself up to where you are. It's incredibly brave. It's a full movie experience. And that's so weird to say because this is not a $100 million production with movie stars and the best crews. It's exactly the opposite. It's just a bunch of people who actually gave a damn and said, let's do something that's like unlike anything else out there that people are gonna have to use all kinds of weird, algebra to come up with what this is, and I think it's bold. I think it needs a lot more eyes. And yeah, I mean, it took me a while to find it, but if this, if we're being honest, it might be my favorite film of 2019.
Speaking of speaking of the deconstruction, part of me kind of thought at the time, because it's like, yeah, everything's kind of like devolving at different points, and I'm like, is that the virus doing that? Am I looking too much into this?
Well, it's the virus, but it's also he's fading, right?
Well, yeah.
He becomes less and less reliable, and the movie gets wilder and wilder. Then apparently he embraces faith, and he gets to come back to one world as a television.
I really love to be inside the head of people watching this right now, trying to make so what is it about?
We told you what it's about. It's just we constantly talk about wanting original things. This is it. Full stop. You're done. This is it. So if you really want to see something different, outrageous, fun, because fun it is. It's never. There is no down point in this movie. There's no point where I was like, I need to get on to its next thing. It's always on the next thing or the thing after that. And it's weird too because it's kind of invulnerable to a joke missing because it doesn't tell jokes, right? There's no gag. It's all they embrace all of it as a thing in that world. You don't get that chance to kind of say, oh, well, that didn't work because It's just the world you're watching. It's just kind of, much like Eraserhead in that respect. Like, you don't necessarily worry about like the practicality of the story in Eraserhead. Like, well, how did this happen, and when did she get pregnant, and what's going on? You don't worry about that because the experience it's that world. It's fully realized, and you just are a guest for a while. This movie could have been an hour longer. I would have been happier. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
We get so many long films that have nothing new to say. This is a short film that has too much to say. And this is kind of why I love cinema.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It is a one of a kind experience, and how often do we say that? I've watched just the last couple of weeks. I've watched some very just bland, not bad, not good movies. With this, you're going to have an experience. Even if you don't like it, it's still worth the trip.
So, Lauren, I have a question for you, because I remember when we did The Heart Never Forgets, and you were explaining it as basically like the story of Jesus through a broken TV set. Maybe you need to tweak that analogy a little bit after watching this thing. Because this is like a broken TV set that's also going through every other channel. It's like a broken TV set playing Stay Tuned.
I'll tell you one thing it kind of feels like to me, and this is weird. It almost has that Sid and Marty Krofft Super Show type of. It feels like kids' entertainment at times because it's so wild. I mean, it's zany. You have the jazz, which definitely gives it a cartoon feel at times too, but yet everything is really pretty adult that's on screen. I mean, there's nothing that's kiddie about the movie except how it looks and feels while you're watching it. But it has that kind of Sigmund the Sea Monster, the Bugaloos, Far Out Space Nuts type of heightened well beyond sitcom. It's way heightened to the point where live action cartoon is about the only thing you can compare it to. But yeah, I like Hearts Never Forget. I think is it feels like it should be similar to this, but it's just not.
No.
Like Hearts Never Forget takes you on a roller coaster of different emotions. This thing just decides to shred your brain.
Yes, it's beautiful. I love it. I love every second of it.
Yeah. So let's give our final thoughts on the film, and you can do whatever you like with the few minutes. But what would you say ultimately would be your final word on Jesus Shows You the Way to the Highway? Although I hope it is not anyone's final word on it. I hope we're still talking about this movie because I'd rather talk about this all day long than anything titled Halloween or Friday the 13th or anything else. Sam, what's your final top line thoughts?
I mean, it's like this weird blend of The Matrix with some Blade Runner, some Total Recall, with a soundtrack that sounds like it's Cowboy Bebop. But then they just made it through Fiverr. So it's incredible. And it doesn't look like it takes place in any time period. It doesn't feel like anything from any time period. It doesn't look like anything I've ever seen. And that's exactly, that's more than I could have asked for. Perfect movie. I won't hear otherwise.
Stone?
I want to echo everything that Sam just said and say that here again, I mean, like Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, this is a one-of-a-kind original that you can't really... I mean, yeah, we can see some of the inspirations there with Philip K. Dick and, virtual reality and so many other things, especially the 80s video games and computer stuff. I really love that stuff. But yeah, it jumps all over the place. I mean, you can't pin this down in any one subgenre or any one time period. I mean, it's a Gonzo original that more people need to see, more people need to talk about. I highly recommend it to everyone and everyone. This is definitely the absolute best movie so far on Obscurity Report. I think I think we've been forced to watch, and it was just a delight, an absolute delight.
Dan.
For somebody that watches a lot of movies, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds over a year period, I always appreciate something different, unique, and also something that I have to think about. As I think we highlighted tonight, this is not just random weirdness. This is not like a trauma film that's just, throwing a bunch of, crazy shit at the screen and seeing what sticks. There is a storyline here, and it is insanely unique. I mean, there's some just this discussion we've had right now. There's things that I didn't pick up on that I now makes me appreciate it even more. I quite frankly, I saw a film recently called Uncharted, and I fell asleep in the theater for the first time ever because it was just so. I didn't want to. I went with my niece, and when you get something like this, it restores your faith in film. And it's been a good. Well, it's been a good week. Everything, everywhere, all at once, which I think more people will see. You like that? You'll like this. There's a little more nudity, a little more sex in this one than that, but nonetheless, expand your horizons, and you might be surprised. I heard a lot of people walk out of the theater with Everything Everywhere like, man, I didn't think I was going to like that. And I think you might discover the same thing with this film. If you give it a shot, it might be like, man, I thought that was going to be stupid, but I actually had a really good time. There's no reason why this should not be a cult classic. Don't be afraid to embrace the new. Branch out. It's not all Halloween. It's not all Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
It's not all Marvel. Those films are still there. Embrace the new, and I think we'll start getting more interesting films again.
So when we started this concept of Obscurity Report, the idea was to shine a light on movies that deserve a lot more attention. Now, that's not to say that no one out there knows these movies, but I think as we move forward, it would be a lot more healthy to be talking about movies like this than any of the things that we've discussed ad nauseum. And I hope that people watching this understand that we all love this movie, not just because it's crazy, not because it's wild, although that's a big part of it. The real thing is this movie has a lot of heart. You like the characters, you enjoy the journey, you enjoy the craziness of the situation, but it's not just, a Mad TV sketch. There's a movie here.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the films of the future that we call classics are half as brave as this movie. Because at one time they were. Like, the stuff that we love today and have nostalgia for were really brave in their time. You can't look at Peckinpah's Wild Bunch and say, well, it's been surpassed now by Tarantino. Sure it has. Tarantino wouldn't exist without that movie. Literally, sperm wouldn't have met egg. So we have an opportunity with a film like Jesus Shows You the Way of the Highway or Our Hearts Never Forget, where you're seeing something really fresh and innovative and original. To ignore those films is to ignore our opportunity in 20 years, 25, 30 years of talking about the first time you saw what is regarded as one of the cornerstones of cinema. And that sounds like hyperbole. It is hyperbole. This movie is hyperbole. And that's the beauty of it. If you miss out on this, you're missing out on the reason I watch movies. And maybe that's not your reason that you watch movies. If you just want comfort food, this probably is not comfort food for anyone. But you know what? I stand corrected because I think that for at least the four of us in these cubes, it probably has become that.
Oh,
yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining us for another Obscurity Report. We will be back probably with something from India just to torture everyone else. Be good.
I'm sorry, I would have loved to have met you. Maybe next time.
You ain't joking. I didn't do my research, so we'll skip that. Told you about the wise man that said things.
Geriatric sex.